Hello, Mark Johnson here, and want to remind you that the challenge I'm now working on is the seated L-sit, which is when you sit on the ground with your legs straight out, and then you push up with your hands and bring your lower body off the ground, so the only thing touching the ground is your hands with your feet straight. So I hope to accomplish that 1 week from today. But today's video, I want to share something with you that may be new to some of you, something I'm working on right now, and perhaps I'll give you some updates as to how I think it's going. It's called Max Contraction Training, and there's a book by that title written by John Little, in case you're interested in reading more. There's probably other authors or people talking about it that might use other terminology like static holds and so forth. And the way I'm going to explain it is simply in my own words, not necessarily John Little's. But as I've been processing this, it seems to me that a lot of typical protocol for working out produces some results, but is really fairly inefficient. And so I want to explain that. And by the way, what I'm talking about today probably won't apply if you're like a competitive bodybuilder, which I'm not. At age 66, I just want to maintain or increase muscle mass and strength and overall fitness. So that's my goal. And I want to do that as efficiently as possible. By the way, I don't have my light ring on, so I hope that it doesn't affect the quality too much. But when I had it on, it was shining on the board here and hard to read. So hopefully this will turn out okay. But let's just take an exercise like a curl. If you think about it, when you're curling a weight, the first third roughly, and I'm going to use generalities with numbers, so don't get too caught up on the numbers I use, but just the generalities. But if you think about it, the first third of the movement really does very little because it's too easy. And if you were to use enough weight to challenge your muscles in the first third of the movement, that's as far as you would get, because the hardest part of the movement is that middle third. And it's that where your lower arms are parallel to the ground. That's what John Little would consider the max contracted position. And that's the hardest part of the movement. And then the last third would be kind of like the first third, easy, not really doing much. And so you would have to, again, to test your muscles at the final third of the movement would really require more weight than you would be able to move. Now, let's assume, for the sake of this video and our discussion, that your protocol is 3 sets of 10. And let's assume you only try to max out your repetitions on the third set. Let's also assume that you are resting for 2 minutes between sets and that you're basically doing a 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down pace. Now 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, 4 seconds times 10 reps is 40 seconds, okay? Now, if you're doing 3 sets, that's 120 seconds or 2 minutes. But now, if only the middle third is really testing our muscles, a third of our movement, then really we only have 40 seconds testing our muscles. Now, if you're adding a 2-minute rest, you've got 120 for your reps. Your 2-minute rest times 2 is 4. So you've got a total of 6 minutes for your curls, 6 minutes, and yet only 40 seconds are actually testing your muscles. But let me suggest that even the 40 seconds is not really accurate for this reason. If you're doing 3 sets of 10 and you're only maxing out on the final set, it really means your first 2 sets are really not taxing your muscles all that much because you're holding back for that 3rd set. And if you can get about 10 reps on the 3rd set, it means your 1st and 2nd sets, if you did 10 reps, really weren't working your muscles all that hard. So all the first 2 sets were basically doing was warming up your muscles and then helping tire them out for the final repetition. Let's assume the final repetition, instead of 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, because you were giving it everything you have for that final repetition, let's say that final repetition was actually 6 seconds instead of 4. Now, I don't know for sure, but I would guess, if you just stop and think about it, that last rep, if you gave it everything you had, could have been responsible for 80-90% of the results of those 6 minutes. Think about that. Could it be that 80-90% of the results of that 6 minutes really all occurred in 6 seconds? Now that brings up an interesting question. If I'm taking 6 minutes and 6 seconds of that 6 minutes is giving me 80-90% of the results, maybe 95, why not cut out 5 minutes and 54 seconds and only do the 6 seconds? You might say, well, how would that be possible? Well, let's talk about that. If we eliminate 2 of the sets and do it all in 1 set, we will have cut out 4 minutes already of the 6 seconds. Now, according to John Lill and all his research, they say that 6 seconds is actually ideal for building especially strength, but also muscle, if your muscle is in the max contracted position and if you have sufficient intensity. And he really emphasizes that it's more about intensity than it is volume and frequency. When you're doing 3 sets of 10, it's not very intense until that last rep or 2. So the key would be with 6 seconds, how could we make that 6 seconds as intense as possible without 3 sets and without 30 repetitions? Well, here's the secret, and that's the max contraction position or the static hold. So here's what you would do with the curl, for example. You would take however much weight you could hold in this position for 6 seconds. Now, it might take you a second or 2 to slowly get it into that position, and then you would hold it for 6 seconds. If you could do 6 seconds, then you would need to add weight the next time and hold it for as long as you can until it's going down against your will. And then when it reaches bottom, you try to move it up as much as you can until you literally cannot move. Now, you're going to use more weight in that position than you would doing 3 sets of 10. And that's a part of the reason why you're going to increase strength. Now, some of the research I've done outside of that book says that also actually confirms the 6 seconds is ideal for strength. Some say more like 12 seconds might be better for building muscle. And, what an option would be, and actually John Little even goes down to 1 second as being ideal for strength. But one possibility would be to cycle. In other words, let's say you do 6 seconds for a few weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is, until you kind of level out, then go up to 12 seconds by lowering the weight each time until you're up to 12 seconds. Do that for maybe 8 weeks, then go back down to 6 and cycle back and forth. Or if you are one who does love pumping iron, why not do your pumping iron for 6-8 weeks and then shift over to the Max Contraction Training for the same period of time, cycle back and forth and see how one impacts the other. Now, John Little, he recommends that when you're first starting this, no more than 3 workouts a week, and that as you get stronger, you go down to 2 a week. And as you get even stronger, you add days. It may be that only every 5 days, every 7 days. He seems to have good results with people when they're getting close to their max to actually only be doing it once every 7 days. But obviously you can experiment. But one of the things he recommends is starting out not with 6 seconds, but like with a minute. And the idea is to get your body with lighter weight used to the movements, the hold, and so forth. Now, I have started this, but to me, 60 seconds just seemed way too long. So I started with 40 seconds. And so what I did is I figured out what weight I needed. And oh, by the way, he recommends 1 exercise per body part. And again, 1 set to max. And then a full body workout in each of your workouts. And then he suggests that compound movements really don't work for this type of training, so single joint movements. And of course in his book he gives you options and a whole bunch of other stuff. But the point is that eventually you're probably only going to be training twice a week. But so what I did is I started with 40 seconds, figured out what weight, and then every workout I would add weight. And here's what amazed me so far. And again, I haven't been doing this very long, but what amazed me so far is how I was adding weight, but I was still able to do 40 seconds. And I was surprised how many times I added weight and still did 40 seconds. Now I'm finally adding weight and getting down more like 25 or, whatever. So I'm going to keep adding weight until I get down to the 6 seconds. And I've even thought about maybe when I get down to the 6 seconds and I'm there for a while, maybe going up to 12 or 24. I don't know that I'll go to 40 again. But again, what about cycling back up to say 24 or 12 and then cycling back? And again, just going back and forth maybe every 6-8 weeks. And then comparing when you get back down to where you were before, has your strength increased? So anyway, in case you find this interesting and may want to give it a try, I'd be curious how it's working for you. In reviews I looked at and everything, I think really just the key is the idea of intensity. That's really the key. And I think with most results people get with working out, again, probably most of the results comes from that last intense rep or two more than all the others. Well, what I really love about this is I'm able to get my workouts done in, like 20 minutes. Right now I'm doing 2 workouts a week, so only 40 minutes a week. Oh, I wanted to mention this. So for me, I am not interested in going to the gym, for several hours a week. In fact, I haven't been to a gym for a long time. I work out in my house. But here's what I want to challenge you with. If this kind of training, 40 minutes a week, if it got you 80 or 90% of the results that, say, 6 hours a week at the gym would get you, would it be worth it to settle for 80% of the results if you only had to work 40 minutes a week versus working out 5-6 hours a week? Well, for me personally, it would be worth it. In other words, to get another 20% results, if I had to spend another 5 hours or so, to me, that wouldn't be worth it. Now, if you're a competitive bodybuilder or a competitive athlete, maybe an extra 5 hours a week to get another 20% results would be worth it to you. So I'll leave you with that. And so again, a week from today, we're going to attempt the L-sit, and I'm looking forward to it. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you're not a subscriber, I'd love to have you be one of my subscribers, and hit the like button, pass this on to maybe some friends that you think might be interested. So till next time, till we hit the L-sit, here's to your health, both physically, but especially spiritually.